You just got a no from an investor. Maybe it stung, maybe you spent weeks getting the meeting, maybe you genuinely thought that this was the one. Now, most founders spiral. They vent to their co-founder and they move on. And that's exactly why most founders stay stuck in the same fundraising cycle for months, longer than they need to. A no right now is not a future no. I'm gonna say it one more time. A no right now is not a future no. And the founders who understand that are the ones closing rounds while everyone else is still collecting rejections. Don't get me wrong, rejection's part of the process, but today I'm going to walk you through the 3 things that the most mature founders do immediately after an investor passes. And I promise you, by step 3, you're going to see why some of the best investor relationships start with a no. So step 1 is dig in until you get specific answers. The first thing a mature founder does after a no is ask for clarification as to what makes it not a fit. Not in a desperate way, in a strategic one. So most investors will give you maybe a soft pass, like the timing just isn't right, or it's not in our thesis, or we love the team, but we're going to pass for now. These answers feel complete, but they are not. They are polite exits, and it's a smokescreen for they're just not interested and they don't care to go further. Your job is to push past the surface and ask directly, is this a timing issue, or is there something specific about the business that doesn't fit your thesis right now? Then stop talking and let them answer. The difference between bad timing and we don't invest at your stage is everything. One tells you to come back in a few months, the other tells you that this investor was never the right fit for you anyways, and stop spending your energy there. Investors who genuinely liked you will answer the question, and the specifics they give you are the intelligence that you need to use in the next conversations. Every piece of feedback shared on your pitch, your positioning, your target investor list, and you'll want to keep track of it. So don't leave a no meeting without knowing exactly what the no is about. Now, step 2 is to ask for feedback on the pitch itself. This is a different question. 1 is about fit. 2 is about execution. Something like, I really appreciate your time. If there was one thing I could sharpen about how I'm presenting this, what would that be? And now here's why this works, is investors sit in hundreds of meetings. They have some serious pattern recognition most founders will never develop. When one of them tells you something like, oh, your why now slide isn't landing, or that your market size math feels shaky, or that you're underselling your traction, that's a gift. Most founders never ask this question because their ego is still bruised from that no. The founders who ask are the ones who show up that next meeting measurably better. And there is a secondary benefit here that most miss, and it's when you ask for that kind of feedback, you signal to the investor that you're coachable, you're self-aware, you're focused on building something real. These are the exact qualities that make investors potentially even reconsider in the future. Now, steps 1 and 2 are about getting smarter from the no. Step 3 is the one that has literally generated checks for founders who were told no. Now, I've seen this happen more than once, and I'm going to tell you exactly how. So step number 3 is ask to stay in their world if you think it's a fit. Once you've gotten the feedback, the third move is to ask one of 2 things, depending on how deep the relationship went. If it was an early conversation, a first or second meeting, you can ask if they'd be open to being added to your investor newsletter. And I did a full video on the investor newsletter, so I'll make sure I link it below. But here's the short version. It's a short monthly or quarterly update you send to your investor list showing momentum, some revenue, product updates, team wins, challenges, and even one ask, which doesn't always have to be funding involved. And then what's next? There's no real pitch language. I've worked with several founders who heard no from an investor, asked them if they could be added to their newsletter, and without ever sending another pitch deck, those investors wrote checks just months later, if not weeks in some cases, because the founders didn't beg. The newsletter showed a level of transparency and maturity that made the investor want in. Think about what that means. The no becomes a check because of consistent professional communication that is kind of like playing the long game, and it works. Now, if you were further along the process, deeper in diligence, you had multiple conversations, that second ask is different. You ask if they have any intros to make of other investors or strategic partners who could be a good fit for your stage or sector, someone related to your industry or advisors that could add value. This ask does 2 things. 1, it expands your network in a single conversation, and 2, it tells the investor you're a resourceful, relationship focused, and not just bitter founder. And founders who are not bitter about a no are the the ones investors remember when that next fund maybe opens up. The no is the beginning of the relationship, not the end of it. And the founders closing rounds are not always the ones with the best product or the most traction. They are often the ones who are the most mature in how they handle every touch point, including the ones that didn't go their way. A no right now is not a future no. So ask why specifically, ask what you can do to improve, and then ask to stay in their world and get them on that newsletter or an intro. This ensures any opportunity to pitch is never one wasted. Those 3 steps turn a dead end into a live relationship, and live relationships become checks. You want to see exactly how to build that investor newsletter that has done this for our founders? I've linked that video below. If you haven't subscribed, hit that button, because every week I'm putting out content on fundraising grants and what it actually takes to become a fundable founder.